that moment when you come early in the morning. But hey, like I said, my face looks quite funny. I need to just get it sorted a bit. I think now it looks better. On X, I just saw a footage just a moment ago of Dubai being bombed by the Iranian regime. Man, that is crazy. It's next level. Wonder why they had to do that. You know, so I wonder why they had to do that. So yeah. So basically, this live stream, like I always will do, is just a general live stream, and I will want to hear your opinion at this time. I want to listen to your own opinion at this time. So it's a general live stream, but please let's have your opinion. And probably maybe you have something else to talk about or speak about. But most importantly, I always like my stream to just specifically, you know, based on African related events, right? African related events. African related events. So I prefer not to stretch it beyond that. I'm more concerned about African events. But the what I want to say or speak about is the next level issue with regards to what is going on out in the Middle East. So I just saw the footage. I don't know how true it is, and I wanted to confirm before coming on live. I've not been able to confirm. So, but let's just confirm first. All right. So let's confirm first if that story is true. Yeah, I think. Let's see. Because why in the world? Tell me why in the world will Iran, for example, attack the the UAE. What's going on? And I do not even know. Is the UAE supporting or not supporting or what's going on? Hmm. Hmm. So what's the news saying? Basically, for those who are my age, the news can actually mess up your minds, eh? Can actually mess up your mind. But I want to confirm if that story is true. Uh, like I always say, I'm very concerned about events that happen on the African continent. And somebody will say that as being selfish, but that's the reality. I'm more concerned about what goes on in the African continent. That's the sincere truth. That's what concerns me. And as much as people or certain individuals will want to associate whatever goes on in Iran with Africa, that we need to also look at it. The key reality is this: the region where they are is the Middle East, and the people in the Middle East should be more concerned about what goes on there, you know. But the government, I'm not talking about the citizens. The citizens are great people. They are great people, right? Very great people, and yeah. So I understand. I mean, when it comes to the citizens, they are great people, but the government, whatever goes on with the government, should concern those in the Middle East. We should really speak about African issues, and really, it should be more about African issues. So, so let's talk Africa. generally. I mean, what do you think? This live stream is started off, kind of like so slow, but we're hoping that we can get it right. We're hoping that we can get it done. But anyways, if you're on TikTok, join me on the conversation. Let's have that conversation. I'm not been able to get that confirmation for what I was speaking about with regards to, Dubai, being attacked or the UAE being attacked because I saw some hoteliers, um, for who were kind of like holidaying out in Dubai getting attacked. I mean it's next level. It's next level. So well, that is it for now. I always have my checklist, right? And on my checklist, I mean, okay, right now I'm actually speaking about global events, so it's fine. And when you're speaking about global events, one thing that is very sure that you have to deal with is the idea that the whole conversation should you know um, center around just basically the region that concerns you. I don't go above board. Yeah, so that is just for me personally. That is what it is about. Let's just check the sound on X and also on YouTube. I think the sound is great. I mean, the sound is okay. I don't need to shout or scream. So if you want to chat, I mean, drop your message in the chat. I mean, if you're in the chat, I mean, and you want to leave your message, leave a message, and then let's get talking. Still the same individual that's been ranting all day. Yeah, that's who I am. That's who I've been. That's who I'm supposed to be. That's where I'm going. You know what it is. You know the deal, right? So but I want to be very sure that everything is working well. So before I actually go full mode, and mm, so whoa, the ladies have started playing their match, their football match. That's interesting. That's great. So let's go back to what I was speaking about. Hmm. So yeah. So let's check to see. And there is a football match going. Barcelona versus Atletico. I mean that's next level game. That's next level. At this time of the day, this is what time do they use? I mean in Spain. If you are actually on the African continent, you know better. What's the score? Man, Barca is beating, Atletico. Oh, that's quite serious. That is quite serious. Is it an old football match or what? Oh, it's the Copa del Rey, semi-finals. But Atletico is still winning with 2 goals because that's 4-2 from what I see from here. Is anyone else also watching the match or so? Is anyone? Anyone? So if I want to get to watch this match, it's a totally different thing. I'm here for actually my own conversation. So, chat, can you just put your message on the chat? Do y'all want me to stream the match as well? But I will have, there will be rights, which is placed on anything that has to do with streaming, something from another platform, and that is going to be really a big problem. So, um, yeah. So for now, what I'm more interested in is I'm more interested in just having a look at what goes on the African continent. So tell me, what do you want us to speak about, chat? What do you want us to speak about? Whether you're on TikTok or whether you're on, you're on X or whether you're on, you know. So, yeah. So, what do you want us to speak about? What exactly do you want us to speak about? Talk to me. But as a Christian living in the modern world, as a Christian living in the modern world, one thing that I've come to realize sincerely is this, that it really takes you to be truthful, you know, to yourself about your Christian faith because of persecution going on around the world, or you really get yourself into trouble. But it's not. This conversation is not about faith. If we want to talk about the current affairs in terms of what is going on, around the world today, um, you know, I have worked on a couple of videos, a couple of content. I believe that anybody who has been following me on TikTok may have been able to watch what I create, the kinds of content I make, and usually when they see this content, they always come with the analogy of, oh yeah, he's talking about Africa, but since he's talking about Africa, you know what we're going to do? We think he's a traditionalist. No, I'm not. I'm not a traditionalist. No, I'm an African. I agree, and I'm not never going to deny that. And we need to come to a place where you don't associate being an African with being a traditionalist. I mean, it's fact is fact. Fact is fact. You know, I'm saying it to every individual, that cares to listen, that being an African does not stop me from being, you know, um, being an African does not stop me from being a Christian, right? It actually just validates why I'm a Christian. Christianity started off, with the Ethiopian eunuch, on the African continent, right? That is how Christianity started off. So, and yeah, so that is how it began, and then of course here we are, with the whole conversation of how far we've come with the Christian faith. So when we now begin to associate Christianity, to say it was brought in by colonialists, that's a different next level conversation. I mean, we hear that misinformation every now and then. I just beginning to get old. That misinformation is beginning to get old. People should get new information, right? But that's not what I'm here to speak about. So I want to speak about, you know, um, the African leaders, before now, and two key figures, that I, made a video about. I mean, you can check a video content about, about them on my page, from the perspective where I took it from. Marcus Garvey and also Emperor Haile Selassie. Marcus Garvey, in terms of the new Africa that we have today, really did a lot of work, right? He did a lot of work. There's whole lot of work that he did, that brought about the African movement, as it were, to the current space we find ourselves, with the African movement. So when you look at the whole idea of the African Union, especially Marcus Garvey was kind of like contributory because of the way he also contributed his own quota at the time in America, with every black person, the Black Star Line, so many other things that he actually contributed to. And at the time, Emperor Haile Selassie was also around at the time, so it was really more of two African individuals, kind of like really bringing the story of Africa to the world to say this is who we are and this is who we've been and this is what we've been. So when I look at their story, I see even though Marcus Garvey, I mean, he's off of the Caribbeans, and then Emperor Haile Selassie was on the African continent at the time. These two individuals were able to come together, agree, and then, of course, they decided to do what they decided to do to push the narrative for Africa, which really was a great idea, right? And they were able to improve, the publicity with regards to Africa, as it were, and it really opened up Africa for the deliverance and everything that Africa later enjoyed. So I want to say this time. I'm just trying to look at my own live stream. Yeah, I want to see how it is and see if maybe everything is okay. Even as I go full mode. And yeah, so basically, when you look at the leadership style that this individuals employed, yeah, I'm live here. I can see. When you look at the leadership styles, that they employed, you will understand one thing that really stood out for me when I look at their way of leading, Africans. And when I mean Africans, I'm talking about whether in the diaspora or leading Africans in, you know, um, on the continent. It's really impressive to see what they did, the kinds of work they did, the kinds of job they did in terms of, bringing Africans together, really showing that it's possible for us to contribute the little that we have. I just want to check the sound to be sure because I see it on YouTube it's playing, but I do not like the lighting on YouTube. I mean, is everything okay with my lighting? Is everything okay? I mean, if you're online at the moment, can you just please get off to YouTube and then please assist me? I do not have individuals that can assist me with what do you call it now? I just want to see. My apologies. No sound coming out. Okay. Okay, I'm muted on this side, so let's just see. Let's just see. I just want to see how, because I don't want it to sound like. I do not have individuals that can assist me with what do you call it now? I just want to see. So, but I think the sound is okay. I don't think that it's messy, right? So, yeah. So if you're on YouTube, or probably maybe you are out, in the United States of America, and actually you are watching the live stream, put it on the chat. What do you want me to speak about while I'm still speaking about the whole conversation around Marcus Garvey? But chat, let's do this. We need to use the chat as a means or as a place to really, really get the word out in terms of, what do we want to represent for Africa? And you see, we can go over the argument to say back and forth, okay, what, this individual or that individual or this person or that person, every other person, we get to fight ourselves concerning Iran. Can we just talk about Africa? I'm more concerned about Africa. That's the sincere truth. I'm not one individual that is really concerned about, every other continent right now. Because whether we like it or not, the war and whatever fight is going on right now, you know, if it's been turned on Africa, most countries on Africa, most countries in Africa, and for Africa, most countries around Africa, in fact, do not have the air defense systems, right? And that is really dangerous in the 21st century. So if if we don't have the defense, systems that will help, you know, with regards to, let's see now, and who is that? I see that somebody is just really kind of, my apologies. So if we do not have, okay, thank you so much, Patrick. I mean, it's great to have you. I didn't know that you were actually just watching my live stream. So, but if we do not have the air defense systems, as it should be with regards to, the African continent, and we are going to be affected by every singular event that is going to happen around the world, and we're not prepared for that, then we need to have allies, friends, individuals that are going to assist us, with every single help in terms of protection. That's what many individuals don't understand. And those in the, those, I was on a live stream recently. Was it yesterday or today? Yesterday. No, what time is it here? It's still today. I was on a live stream today, and there was this conversation. Everybody was just speaking about what can be and what cannot be in terms of how every country comes to Africa's resources. Agreed. I mean, that's a sincere truth. I mean, yesterday we were speaking. Myself and a Kenyan brother, we were speaking, and we were talking extensively on that. The reality of the matter is this, that we need in the 21st century need to have an Africa that has an African Union that speaks on development. Some individual recently posted something to say, what, it's all a process, that everything cannot happen in one day. I agree. I agree. But how far have we gone? Really, we need to really have this conversation. And African youths, are not coming together enough to speak about some of those issues, right? We're more concerned about who is Nigerian, who is Kenyan, who is Ghanaian, who is South African. We're more concerned about that. So it's in Nigeria, you know what we'll call it? We'll call it all man for himself, but that is totally wrong. Why will all man be for himself? So that is why, for example, what is going on in the Middle East, so many individuals say, are you not concerned about what is going on in the Middle East? I agree, but I'm concerned about what goes on the African continent. For example, there's some news somewhere about 175 people or so killed in Sudan. 175. Who is talking about that? Who is having that conversation? Who is the person that is speaking about that? Not too many. So why, I will leave my African continent and go elsewhere. I saw a couple of posts, by African, several African leaders, speaking about, how, the how the case in Iran after the Ayatollah, was assassinated, and they were speaking in strong terms. Who has spoken about what is going on in Nigeria? Who? How many leaders took it upon themselves to speak about a massacre going on week in, week out in Nigeria? How many have spoken about what is going on in Sudan, South Sudan, several countries on the African continent? How many have taken it upon themselves? And sometimes when I speak about this, I get mad. That's a sincere truth. How many have spoken about that? Please, if you want to place, you want to join this conversation, you can put your message on the chat. I will also respond. So my problem is really this. It's not really about speaking about other countries. It's not about solidarity with other countries. My problem really is the fact that we are so hypocritical that we will speak about Iran, and there's been unaliving going on constantly in Nigeria, in Sudan, in Somalia, in South Sudan, and in a couple of other countries. And who is speaking about that? Who is going to speak for those individuals? Are they not humans? And those are actually more related to me than anyone else. Right? So that is what I should be speaking about. So basically, my thing is that we need to come to a place where we really, really, really speak a lot, with regards to Africa, with regards to Africa. Because the fact of the matter is this, we don't have the air defense systems for us to really, for us to really take advantage of what it is, about in terms of our security. And it's really, really, really a big problem, right? It's a big, big, big problem. It is a big problem. So we need to come to a place where we have to, as Africans, speak for ourselves and not just only depend only on someone else speaking for us. So for example, as much as Africa is, as much as Africa has been, around a long time, recently what we had was I Show Speed, coming to speak on our behalf. And then everybody, the whole place, everybody was going, haywire. Hey, I Show Speed, I Show Speed. He's breaking the narrative. So who was the one that was posting videos or doing something or working on something? That's what our, influencers should be about. We should have influencers who speak about these issues, what will publicize us, what will announce us. That is what it's supposed to be about. It doesn't have to be about we constantly relying on our brothers and sisters in the United States of America coming down to speak about African issues. So I can go on and on on this rant, but like I always say, yes, what led me to say this is that even though I'm Christian, does not mean that I do not need to speak for Africa. You understand? Humanity first, and very, very importantly, Africa first, before any other continent. Africa first. Africa first. Because there's so much that needs to be talked about our continent that we are generally not doing. Generally not doing. And I feel that we can do more. I feel that we can speak to that more. I feel that every one of us can use our platforms, use our social media, use every tool that we have to speak concerning these issues. All right. So if we are not really um, having the right conversations that we need to have, and we are really pretentious, if I may use that word, pretentious, of what is going on the African continent. At the end of the day, everyone is leaving us to our own peril. So when there's a whole lot of conversation with situations whereby people say, whatever is going on there should concern us. Agreed, I do not dispute you. I do not dispute you. But the fact of the matter is that who is going to speak for Africa, right? So let's leave it at that, and I just want to leave that conversation, at that. If you look at one other thing that I was speaking about is that growing up, I used to ask myself this, so I hear, stories like, some of the richest black guys in the United States of America, even though some have done, very interesting things, that makes you question certain things. So you look at some of the most interesting black guys in America, and one of the questions that always goes through my mind is this: why in the world, in the first place, do they not have investments on the African continent? I used to ask that question. And I used to say, if you say that these individuals are very rich individuals, and they are really, really that rich as much as you're talking about, then how come, or how in the world are they not having investment? Hotels, businesses, and other things. How are they not having it on the African continent? How? How is that possible? Right? But it was all about showmanship, showing how much or whatever that they own or earned or whatever that they had. That was what all it was. There was nothing more. There was nothing more to that than that. So you need to come to a place where we look at things, from the African perspective, and not just allow somebody, only, a brother from outside the continent to speak for us. So, and also needs to come to a place where, that we take also the conversation to a level where it's not only a conversation of who is speaking for us alone, but also, getting other Africans from outside the continent to invest in Africa, to invest in Africa. You get what I'm saying? That is what it's supposed to be. So if we're not doing that, then we are only also not dealing with the matter as it's supposed to be. But anyways, while also speaking in normal everyday English, like I always say, I am not a white man. English is not my language. The only thing I do know of is that I have also to speak pidgin English at some point. So if you are probably maybe on the continent of Africa and for some reason maybe you hear me, or probably you've been watching my live stream and you hear me speaking pidgin English, I mean, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. The thing is that I should speak, an English that is actually relevant to me. English has nothing to do with situation or conversations around whether you are, kind of like educated or you're not educated, or maybe it has to do with how smart you are. No, it's a language. And I've seen some persons, whose accent and English language or the way they speak English is quite very strange and funny, but still, these individuals have been able to do certain things, that certain great things, beyond normal. So it's a conversation about Africa. It's a conversation about us. It's a conversation about who we need to be, what we need to be, how we need to be. And so, whatever it is, let's always get the conversation about Africa as well, out so that everybody will know. So, if you are on YouTube, I saw a couple of individuals on YouTube, and also you are here on TikTok. I mean, I can bring you up on TikTok. I can bring you up on TikTok. And if you are maybe on YouTube and you just want to join the conversation, can you just put the message on the chat? I'm going to read your message. Let me just do this. Please type your message. Not a message, a question or a comment. Type your, comment or message or that YouTube or X, whichever one that you are. I just want to have that conversation, that we join the conversation and everyone has the conversation together. Please type your comment or input. Yeah, input. In the comment for YouTube. Okay, so for YouTube, so let's do that. I think that will answer the question. Or join us, on TikTok to get on the panel. Yeah. Yeah. So basically, like I said, it's a conversation, projecting Africa to the world. That's what I'm more concerned. That's what I'm more concerned. I hope this was going to show in a way that is going to be impressive. Yeah, great. Yeah, great. Or input in the comment for YouTube or X. I totally even forgot. So let's hide that and let's think I can do better. Okay, it's fine. Let's just leave it as it is. I mean, if you're either on YouTube or X, I mean, you can just type, in the comment section, in comment area, and of course, let's get talking. So, but the key reality is that this is a live stream. It's a live stream as well, in the spirit of live stream, we're having a live stream that is, kind of like just having a conversation and chat, put your message on the chat. And of course, if you are on TikTok, I'm hoping that I can have some individual joining me on TikTok, several individuals join me via TikTok so that we can have, very important conversations, right? Very important conversations. So we have to keep our story going on. And so when we talk about politics, for example, on the African continent, so like I was speaking about, the African Union needs to do a lot of work, a lot of work. First off, um, is it African Development Bank or something like that? I mean, why in the world will the African Development Bank, AFDB, if I'm correct, right? I stand to be corrected, and I think I'm going to look up that material, right? I always like to speak with facts and look up materials. I don't like, just speaking off the top of my head. So AFDB, I want to know who the shareholders are, because I hear that for the AFDB, one of the things that you will find with the AFDB, or the information you'll find generally with the AFDB, is that that's the African Development Bank Group, is that about 50% of the shares is owned by the French. That's interesting. That's really interesting. Really, really interesting. If you've been following, some of the stories that I've been building, some of the items that I've been building, it's more about, how Africa can advance themselves, how Africa can come together, how Africa can speak about or speak for themselves. And I see there's something on the AFDB website which talks about high-level symposia, for or on advancing a visa-free Africa for economic prosperity. That's a great, great idea. So the AFDB is what we call the African Development Bank Group. And my real concern with the AFDB is that I'm yet to see them massively getting involved in funding a lot of African, the youths. I mean, there should be some sort of program that helps to fund, great, African minds, right? So I do not know why. It's a different story, with the AFDB. However, even if they cannot do it, then why on earth will they not actually go ahead to connect, right? Small scale, businesses to be what they need to be. So let's just see. What brought me here with the AFDB is that I want to find out. I mean, I hear that it was said that 50% of the share is been owned by the French. I don't know how true it is. Stand to be corrected. So I want to see. And if that were to be the case, then that is totally wrong. That is totally wrong. The reason why it's totally wrong is that what happens to the African continent? What exactly, you know, are we contributing to the AFDB, and why are we not, contributing, in larger quota, with regards to, the African continent? But I thank God for something that is happening in terms of, or we begin to speak when in the light of, this current affairs. I thank God for, the situation, with what do you call them now? The whole Ghanaian, emancipatory, opportunity for, Africans who are in the diaspora to have an opportunity to really, get on, to come over, and then of course have, an experience of what it is like, on the African continent. So basically, I'm interested in a number of conversations. Like I said, being a Christian, being a scientist, and an African at the same time, I love to speak about African issues. So I'm not going to be that, person that is just, whose mind is just blank, to the realities of life, or to the realities of what is going on. So if you want to join in on the conversation, could you just either you put a message on the chat, or you can join the conversation on TikTok. I mean, that is also something that is possible. But either way, it's this will continue. This live stream is something that I'm going to continue doing over the next couple of weeks. For now that I have, enormous time on my hands, so I will do that over the next couple of weeks, and then of course we will just continue to discuss, generally. So I can find out material with regards to, of course, some of this, some of some or sorry, information of that nature will not be available on the website, per se. You can only find information like that elsewhere, in terms of, you find it maybe either on some of the symposia or the seminars, or some of the conversations that they have, one way or another, in other areas. So I think that is where you find such conversations. So basically, the let's get back to, speaking about youths on the continent. So if you are a young person and you're a youth, my interest really is, about how can we connect each other. And I need to type that out. How can we, as young people, how can young Africans, okay, and when I mean Africans, I'm talking about everywhere, young Africans globally connect, right? Globally connect to do business. So if you're, on the African continent, it would be a great idea. Not only on the African continent, yeah. How can young Africans globally connect to do business? That's what I'm more interested in. How can we connect globally to do business? How is that going to be possible? How do we bring that, to materialize? How is it even going to be possible to do that? So that is also something that I am really concerned about, and I'm really interested in. So basically, we have to get to a place where, the conversation, has to be really about connecting to do business, connecting to do, things together, connecting, to really advance the course of Africa, as it were. That is what it should be about. You understand what I'm saying? So it should be more about that conversation, and it should be about, conversations around, that. So how can we do that? How is that going to be possible? How is it going to be a possibility? How is it going to be a possibility, to connect, to do business, or to have conversation centered around, doing business with one another, or doing business together. So those are also conversations also that, I'm really, really, really interested in. And, the most interesting thing about, young Africans is that when you go to most, organizations, either in the US or probably maybe, especially when it comes to tech related organizations, you find individuals, who are of African descent, working, in very, very key sectors, and we have to begin to build, some of those key sectors on the continent. For example, on the continent of Africa, we have not had, major, defense, um, defense, what do I call it? A defense, tech, organizations. Not until I stand to be corrected. Yeah, individual defense organization. Not until recently, one, two guys, two friends, in their 20s, got together to actually start off what we now call Terra Industries, and it received funding from outside Africa. That's sort of strange and funny thing, from outside Africa. Can you imagine? And on one of the posts, I said something, and I said that the strange thing about the whole terror industry, our conversation is that those guys must have gone to Africans to invest, but not too many Africans would have actually listened to them or look their part to say, what, we're going to invest. We're going to look at how we're going to also, be a part of investing, in whatever work you're doing. They let them be until these guys had to move to America to get investment, for the work that they do. So how are young people going to be able to connect, to do business together, to do things together, to get things to do, to work, together? Because we are at a place right now which requires young Africans coming together, putting heads together, doing things together, and all that and all that. So yeah, so that is something I'm really concerned about. And if you have an idea, can you just type it on the chat? Chat, can you just type it on the chat? Yeah, and then of course, if you're able to type it on the chat, and then we will also advance and take it from there. We will take it, further as a conversation that we need to, really speak about. So, how can we really connect together? Purely essay. Joining on YouTube. Okay, he's gone. Lerato, nice having you. Yeah. Unfortunately, I can't read out every name on YouTube or X, but I do believe that one way or another that we can really connect, privately. I mean, in my own opinion, is that there needs to be a fora, sort of, for young Africans, a fora, sort of, for young Africans um, who really have gotten, involved um, in the whole business world, and it has to also do with we coming together, aligning together to work on so many things, so many projects together, whether film, whether story, or even tech, or whatever it is, we have to align. There needs to be a forum for that conversation. And the brother, one of the brothers that joined me today on the stream on TikTok said something that I really, love, and he said that I have to continue speaking about this every now and then. Yeah, sometimes, we just have to continue speaking about some of this, um, having these conversations constantly, and then see how it plays out, or how or where the conversation actually goes. Yeah, so that is just how it is. And yeah, so we will continue to have these conversations and see, who larches off or larches on this conversation, and then yeah, we'll see how it goes. That is just what I'm concerned about. But the key thing is that our continent needs to be greater than it is. It has to be projected more than it is. It has to have, you know, you know, the whole conversation. It's not everything that we need to depend on some other, individuals to come, assist us to work on it, right? So it's, yeah, it's like that. And if you are a friend of Africa as well, you are welcome to the conversation. All friends of Africa are welcome to the conversation. Nobody is, saying that you have to stay off the conversation, right? So it's not a closed door meeting. Please, it's not a closed door meeting. It's not a closed door meeting. It's a conversation that we're having, and it's a conversation that we'll continue to have, and we'll see where the conversation goes and where it leads, and then we'll, really be able to speak about, where it leads and where it's going. So, like I said, it's a 30 days, or is it 30 day? Which one is it now? I don't even know what word to use. It's a 30-day, live stream session where we will be having live stream, right? We'll be having a live stream. So it's a live stream session, and that is what it's about. It's a live stream session that's going to really speak and touch on a range of African related issues. So something that also I was really interested in was the case of the case of what I will call real estate, property. How is the property market within where you are, or where you're from, or where you belong? How is it going? What's happening? What's been the latest, news with regards to the property market, within the area where you find, you know, um, yourself? Can somebody talk to me about that? If you can put that message in the chat, or probably maybe chat, or someone on YouTube or someone on X. For some reason, I've not even been looking at X, But if you do have your messages, I mean, you can type it in there. I will see them, on the streaming software that I'm using, so I can actually read them out, and then of course respond, or provide an answer and context, to it. So, what's the property market, within where you are on the African continent, in whatever country that you are or you belong. And yeah, so let's also see what it is like. I'm just trying to see how to just put some things together, right? Yeah, so let's do this. Alrighty. So, mm, am I speaking about politics or everyday issues? What is it about? Hmm? Am I speaking about politics of every issues? Um, what is it about? Can somebody talk to me? Can somebody just type that in the chat? Is that what I'm speaking about? Because this is all about all things Africa, right? That's what I'm concerned about. All things Africa. Yeah. So the basic reality, that we have on the continent, that I have seen, that seems to really, become an interesting conversation, is that we we as a people, really need to make, certain decisions. We need to decide what we want to see for ourselves, right? We need to decide what we want to see for ourselves. What exactly are we looking for, or what exactly are we looking forward to? Okay? Looking forward to. What is it about that we're looking, to become, as a continent or as a nation? The idea of the visa to every country, on the continent is it a visa, or what I saw on the AFDB is it's it's not necessarily a visa. It's the idea of, yeah, maybe a visa. I don't know. Permit me. But anyways, the idea, with regards to, having a conversation that is centered around anything that is going to improve, encourage Africa, it's very important. If you, for some reason, for some way, if you are someone who um, knows more about how nations are built, it also requires, individuals also, being able to take, the bull by the horn, or take it, in good stride. You understand what I'm saying? Take it, in the sense of, to say, as far as they are concerned, they will determine, what happens to them, and they will determine where they are going, and they will determine who they want to be. And I think that is also a source of concern for me, in terms of the fact that that has not been done in the way that it should be done. That has not been done in the way it should be talked about, right? Yeah. So when we now, talking about certain things that should happen on the continent, are great ideas, but the fact of the matter is this: before great things happen, or great ideas happen, it will require also a people who come up with a decision to say, this is the way we want to go as individuals, and this is the way we want to work on things, as individuals, as it were. But there's so much conversation that we need to talk about, and yeah. So it's all an all conversation about Africa. So join in on the conversation. Be part of the conversation. If you are not part of it right now, be part of it. In terms of yeah, be part of it in the sense of as we continue to have these conversations, be part of it. Be a part of it, please. And your contributions are very important. Your contributions are very necessary. Your contributions will go a long way to also assist, in um, helping propagate or propel the conversation even further. So if you can join in on the conversation one way or another, that will be a great idea, right? That will be a great idea. So, so that's what it is. That is what it's going to become. I will still be streaming over the next few days, right? Over the next few days, and I'm hoping as well that you and every person joining in can join in, and then contribute their quota, and then of course speak on what they want to speak about. So, and if you also want me to create content, what kind of content now, or what information, or what knowledge, or what story do you want to hear more about Africa? What kind of other stories do you want to hear about Africa, right? And yeah, so then I'm looking forward to. Is there anyone also that can provide me with an idea of the kind of video games that will really um, interest the young people, because I see the young people are actually really fascinated with listen um, fascinated with video games. That is what attracts them. So we need to bring them on board to say that we can live as much as we can in fiction. And can I say this? Fiction is not going to help us. And there's something we're not doing. There's something we're doing on the African continent, which is we consume every single information, every single information, every single information that is on African, and we live in that bubble. Life is too serious more than that. And what kind of future are we building for the continent? What kind of future are we building for the continent? I'll give you this example. When I look at Asia, if you look at Asia and anyone looks at Asia, what comes to mind with Asia that you and I know of, that we will all agree with, is that Asia is technological. It's technological. They took conscious decision. Talking about talking about India, talking about China, talking about Japan and Taiwan, Hong Kong, you know, just only a couple of few countries that are not really involved technologically, right? But when it comes to business, if you want to build this, you want to build that, guess what? Um, you are going to be looking at really to Asia, and that is why most of the things that or most of the items that we use on the continent of Africa are actually made from Asia, right? They're made from Asia. So the bottom line of what I'm trying to say to you and to everyone is this: that we need to come to a place where we speak more specifically with regards to how we can advance the cause of young people, how we can advance the cause of conversations that is centered around young individuals, really advancing the African project forward. We can deny it as much as possible, but my country is greater than yours. It doesn't mean that we are all not going to suffer the same fate. A key example is what we see in Nigeria today. Like I said, I was saying earlier, which is what brought me here. You know, on the continent of Africa, since whatever has been happening on the continent of Africa, Nigeria, for example, with all of the battles and everything that has been happening, how many African leaders have spoken about it? How many? How many? Not too many. That is, even if there were, but because I doubt if there are any. No. But immediately the whole case of Iran was happening. Everybody jumped on the bandwagon to speak all that they want to speak about. Whereas if there is a war in Nigeria today, every African nation will suffer the fate. I give you a key example. Nigeria is about 200 million people, right? Imagine a war and 100 million move out. Where are they going to? Where is going to be the very first settling place? Every other African country. And when they settle in every other African country, I'm saying this that your population will jump. So we have 54 nations in Africa. So let's spread 2 million each to each nation in Africa. You are going to be having 2 million more, people coming into your country, and that in itself, you will feel threatened, right? There is no war at the moment, but already Nigerians are all over the place, not only in Africa but around the world. How many leaders in Africa have spoken about it and have taken the time to say, you know what, we don't want a war to take place in Nigeria. So whatever is going on in Nigeria, Africa is going to go in there and then sort it out. But the moment somebody like Donald Trump, and this is a very controversial issue, and I'm going to get backlash for this, and then a lot of people are going to follow me for this, but this is the truth. The moment Donald Trump talked about how he was going to jump in and then, of course, try to solve the issue from a religious point of view, every African leader spoke about it. But that war, that attack, the security concerns in Nigeria have been going on for decades. For decades. For about 20 years plus. So, these are conversations that no one is having. But immediately the case of the Ayatollah came up, every single one started to speak up. The hypocrisy going on in Africa. And if the war happens tomorrow, are you all going to close your borders? Are you going to close it? I kid you not, you can't close your borders against Nigerians because they're going to get into every corner of your city, every corner of your country. So, my meaning is this that we need to come to a place where it's important that every nation is concerned about the security of whatever goes on in every African nation. And it's not even only Nigeria. What about South Sudan? South Sudan has been constantly having issues, constantly having an issue. How many African leaders have just come in the morning to say, you know what, I want to speak about the case of South Sudan? How many? How about Sudan? How many? I mean, the killings in Sudan was terrible. The very recent one was terrible, whereby Islamists wanted to wipe off tribes, villages, take over, and they've done that. How many people came up and said, you know what, I want to speak up for Sudan? A key example is what we see currently in Congo. Congo has been in war for decades. Now, yes, several countries, in Africa has been able to take Congolese citizens, and of course, several Congolese citizens have also moved to America. How much time do we need to wait more until that issue is resolved? And these are the hypocrisy that we find on the African continent. We're supposed to get to a place whereby we ostracize, we send in exile, or we stay away from any country supporting evil on the African continent. If you look at what the work that I do, most of the time, I'm just looking at my X page, the About section, and I see it's popping up also on the area of popping up on the About section. So if you're watching me on X, you'll be seeing that About section where it contains my website and all that. Now the sad reality of that is this: that when you go to my website, I speak on that is business, but I'm speaking now as an African. I can actually decide not to speak about even Africa and go do whatever I want to do, and not be concerned myself with Africa, right? But anyways, as I wrap up for tonight, this stream, I just want to say this: my book, Africa, on sale. The Diaspora's, ownership playbook is available. It's on Amazon. You can buy it on Amazon or Kindle. Buy it or read, and it's an interesting book, and I implore anybody to buy it and read and see why I continue to speak about this issue, so speak concerning this issue, so speak in that light or in that manner. So Africa on Sale, the Diaspora's ownership playbook, is available on Kindle or Amazon. You can check it out. Africa on Sale. I mean, if you just type Africa on Sale, the book will pop up. So I'm concerned more of speaking about Africa, and I'm really, really, really concerned, and I will continue to speak about Africa because the reason why we need to speak about Africa is that we need to come to a place where, where we have to accept, we have to agree, we have to, really look at how well we can, contribute to making our continent even better. And there's so much, so much, so much, so much we can do, together, as a society, as a people, as a continent. There's so much that we need to speak about as a society, as a people, as a continent, and not really continue to concern ourselves, with what goes on only elsewhere and forget about, our continent. Our continent is also being facing existential threat at this point in time, you know and the African continent is something that we must have to speak about right now. If we're not speaking about it right now, we are actually setting ourselves up for what? For an interesting time. You know, many individuals will talk about, the whole xenophobia. Certain countries are xenophobic, in terms of, certain countries, but it starts first with the security situations in every African nation being a concern to everybody, being a concern to everybody. It starts that way. Have you been able to speak about that? Are you even concerned with what goes on, with the security situation in certain, African countries? Right? So that is what my live stream really is about, and I'm not one that is here to begin to continually, constantly, get into the frenzy of you really showing fiction, because many individuals on the continent of Africa, are more interested in fictional issues. There's music, let's get to dance. There's, videos, let's get to watch. There is a video game, let's get to play. That's what they're more concerned about. But we're less concerned about issues that affect, our society, affect us all, and that in itself, it's a big problem. It's a big, big, big problem. So let's continue the conversation. Let's get talking. I am really, really looking forward to, joining in, the individuals joining, my live stream from time to time, and let's have conversation. And if you do also have somebody that, wants to also is interested in speaking about Africa, please get them on. Get them on, bring them on. Let's talk. Let's talk. We need to build the Africa that we want to see in our lifetime. We must not wait until it begins to become a problem. Let's speak about the Africa that we want to see in our lifetime. You understand? So it's really conversation centering around leadership, centering around politics, centering around, because when we speak about politics, we also speak about now health, we speak about, order issues, we speak about sports, we speak about every other thing. So, but it's about leadership, it's about politics, it's about how can we make Africa better. So joining on the conversation, the live stream will still continue, even if I jump off tonight, it will still continue again. I will resume again by, the morning, to really continue about the conversation, since I have, an interesting time, on my hand, at this time around. So I think this is how I'm going to spend my time, in this enormous time that I have, to really get myself to concern myself, with how we can move Africa forward. And really, really, if you also are joining, the live stream, it's something that we, are going to be doing together. And what I mean by that is it's something that we are going to assist one another to have these conversations, and we should speak less on things, that do not really matter, and speak more on things that do matter, to us. So before I actually just kind of like wrap it up for tonight, there's something also that I just wanted to touch on or touch base on, and that has to do, with fashion. What is the African fashion show like? Have we, do we have, um, where you are? I mean, are there anything concerning fashion? I've not been speaking about that, in a long time. I am a lover of African art, a lover of African clothing and designs. We've got swag, right? And yeah, I wish that there are going to be more fashion shows that depict African clothing being worn or woven in a different manner, woven in the way that it really shows the uniqueness of our continent of Africa. So I don't know. So I'm saying that, do you have any idea whatsoever? If you do have an idea of an African event, I want to speak about African fashion shows. I want to majorly dwell on that. So if you can provide me with that information, I'll be very very glad. Be very glad, because I want to be able to showcase some of those nice clothing material, or some of those, bring even someone individuals also on, some panels, on some of those days, or also to join in the conversation. And also, why do I always keep saying also? Also, what's also? Young, stop with this also. Anyways, just to constantly, have a conversation with regards to clothing, by African fashion designers. One thing I've realized most recently is that we love the Prada, we love the why am I giving them names? I mean, giving them flip free publicity on my stuff. So we love all of the Italian made designs, but hey, I want to be speaking more on African related, design. So if you do know of an event, a show, a fashion show, or probably anything that's centered around that, I want to showcase more of that also on my channel, and also be able to speak about it, and to sometimes also sometimes not there's no also sometimes invite someone. Young, make you stop this also. Let me just add a bit of pidgin English from Nigeria there. So let's have individuals come on the platform and then have this conversation. So I think for tomorrow, Wednesday, I'm going to see if I can stream all day. If I can stream all day, that is YouTube, X, and TikTok. I want to see if I can stream all day. If I can, that'll be great. If I cannot, then I'm hoping that we can, have at least a considerable amount of time, with the streaming. I'm saying tomorrow. It's today, later today, later today. But it doesn't start from now. I'm talking about much later in the morning after I've had my coffee, right, and then try to meditate on several, conversations. So yeah, so before I wrap up now for tonight, the last thing I want to speak about is this. I'm a Christian, right? And I'm a believer, in Jesus Christ. However, when I speak on African issues, they are matters from the heart. Doesn't prevent me from practicing my faith. So I'm not here going to speak about faith-related issues. I'm here to speak about issues that border on our existence as Africans. We must be concerned. Somebody must be pushing the word out. We must not always wait for our brothers in the Americas to come teach us how we should do things, right? How we should do things. So let's get talking. Let's get the conversations out. Let's constantly get the conversations, out. So well, that's a wrap for me for now, for tonight. I mean, have a good night. I mean, if you're on the African continent, but if you are actually watching from elsewhere in America, the other videos that the other live streams, not videos, other live streams are actually on my playlist. I mean, you can go check them out. Basically, I'm more interested in speaking on African related issues. I mean, the one I know that you may not like may be the very first one. I don't like it either. You understand? Because I was really struggling with using most of the device and the hardware. But right now, my hardware, my devices are okay. There's a camera there, there's another one here, so it's working now. And then of course this very interesting laptop that I have is working as well. The reason is that I'm more interested in speaking about African related issues. So now I have the opportunity of really looking at everything from a more interesting, a point of view. So basically, I'm hoping that we can get talking about Africa, get publicizing about Africa. And the last thing but not the least, I am actually forgetting this: agriculture. Who are the most successful agriculturists, or probably farmers, African farmers on the continent? I'd love to interview one of them. I'd love to speak to any of them, right? Young people, young farmers. We need to create an inspiration for the next generation. And if you are somewhere, somehow, in the United States of America, or probably in the diaspora generally, and you feel that you also want to support local African farmers also on the continent, it's something also I feel that should be done, not to expect anything in return, because usually you can never predict what humans will do or people will do. But I think it has to get to a point where we have to provide a certain amount of money, kind of like a foundation or something, little amount of money that supports local African farmers on the continent of Africa, anywhere on the African continent, you understand, not just specifically to a certain area. So that is also another conversation I'm really 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 looking forward to having. And yeah, and then we will see how the journey goes, how the event turns out to be, and then yeah, we will take it from there. So for now, bye, and have a good night rest. Thank you so very much, and goodbye to everyone either on X, TikTok, or YouTube. Thank you.